I was talking about that VC woman, Masha Booker, earlier, and we had interviewed her here. And I never released the interview because she didn't pass the sniff test. I just thought she was completely full of shit. We found something that said she was tied to Epstein, and she got very uncomfortable in the interview and wanted it pulled out. And I said, we're not pulling it out. We're not pulling it out. Or we're not releasing anything at all.
I can't believe people ask you to withhold stuff.
We don't. The only time I do that is when I'm talking to somebody that was in special ops or the agency that says something that was on an operation that they're like, I don't think that's
that's to protect our troops.
And so that's the only time that I'll do it. But with her, she didn't. Me and Jeremy, me and the whole team had a long talk. It was like I think this whole thing's bullshit, and so we didn't release it. Well. Turns out it was all bullshit because I can't even remember what she said in the interview. It was basically like, oh, no. And what did she say? Do you remember?
Yeah, it said that she was working PR in New York and she was introduced to Jeffrey Epstein. It was totally innocent. That's
yeah.
She did.
It turns out she was his PR agent. In fact, there was a big article that just came out, right?
It's in Forbes this morning. Yeah.
It's in Forbes.
That was all in the files. Right?
It's in Forbes. And and so I want to ask you, we looked at a lot of her emails because she was a former guest. We're probably going to release the interview now.
You should.
We're just going to have to do a little dialogue at the beginning, kind of explaining what this all is. But there was a lot of back and forth emails with her, and she wanted to do DNA tests. And she wanted to do DNA tests from what's that website, Jim? 23andMe. Yeah. And she only wanted to work with people that are 98% Jewish or more. Why? And then, I don't know, she thinks they're smarter. She says they're smarter than all the rest of us.
She said that it's in one of the emails.
Yep.
Well, that's just...
We'll put the email up right now so everybody can see it. I wish I had it. I'll show it to you after this. But in those emails, there's a lot of stuff. What are these? Goy. Do you know what this is?
I mean, I've heard the term, but what does it mean? It's
I think it means slaves, right?
Nation cattle.
Nation cattle.
It's a slur.
It's a racial slur to everybody that's not Jewish. This is in these files, like,
and she's saying
everywhere, not just her. Epstein's talking to the former prime minister of Israel, and. What is that? What's going on? And then we see all these laws being passed here in the States for anti-Semitism. What about the rest of us? Why aren't we protecting the rest of us? What is that?
Well, look, I think we've got to get back to the basic principles of this country. I'm of Hindu faith, Indian American, born in Philadelphia. You treat every person with equality and respect, whether you're a Christian, whether you're Jewish, whether you're Hindu, whether you're Muslim. And are there cases of anti-Semitism in America? Yes, there are.
Fuck yeah, there are. I'm not going to argue that.
And have there been incidents? Yes. But is there an arrogance in Silicon Valley beyond just these emails of some people who think they're better than other human beings? That, to me, is the fundamental construct, right? That needs to be challenged, that you're not better just because you may be rich. You're not better just because you may have been a billionaire. You're not better just because you're part of the Epstein network. Like, I have so much more respect for people who wear the nation's uniform, who keep our country safe, for firefighters, for law enforcement, for nurses, for EMT workers, for teachers. The people who built this country, steel workers, people on the factory floors. And we have lost that sense of respect for people who really, through hard work, built America, right? And I think about how I grew up in Bucks County, teachers, Little League coaches, right? And they never had a shot, never dreamed of going and making millions of dollars. I don't have a problem with people going and becoming rich and starting companies, but this sense that you're better than folks, that the rules don't apply to you, and the sense that the economy should just work for you. Some people say, like, yeah, they should get to call the shots, that they have some kind of God-given right to rule or lead, that America will be better off with them in charge. And I fundamentally reject that. And that is the tale of two Americas is the problem, I think, in this country. It's why people voted for Bernie. It's why people voted for Trump. They're sick of it. They want to be seen for the people who actually built America, the forgotten Americans. And Trump campaigned on that. And people are like, well, what now? Why aren't you going after these people? You said you were going to tear them down. You said you were going to hold this corrupt system accountable, drain the swamp. What happened?
It was all bullshit. Why do you think that? Why are they protecting the abusers? Why didn't those names come out? Why are the little black lines over all the real important shit? Honestly, what do you think that is?
They're powerful. They're very powerful. One person talked about a name who is in the files who hasn't gotten attention. I don't want to say the name, but who said that this guy is so powerful in New York that everyone fears him. And I think that the names that probably haven't been released yet or are blacked out, they're probably people who are very, very powerful, who have financial interests, maybe they're saying, look, you put our name out and we're going to talk about who else was involved. We're going to spill the beans about more of what is there. And so I think they were actually very clever. What they did is they put out enough, and they put out a lot of bad stuff that people would say, well, that was a legitimate release. You ask me, is it a legitimate release? Yeah. They put out a lot of stuff. It was pretty bad. I didn't expect even that we'd get this far. But then they didn't put out the nuclear stuff. And so this is the way of saying, yeah, it's not BS. I mean, if I go to a judge saying, oh, they didn't release the files. No, we released the files, and the judge will look at it. Bro, they put out millions of documents. They've called out a lot of people or powerful folks. But what they do by that diversionary tactic is they can keep the worst of it secret. And now it's harder for Massey or me or the survivors to say, let's still get all the files. So someone is being very sophisticated in giving us just enough to pass the test, but keeping the most powerful people protected. And this is a question that we need answered. I mean, why are these people being protected? Who are they? What power do they have? What do they know? Because politically, it makes no sense. Why wouldn't you release this stuff?
You think there's people more powerful than the ones that are already in there? I mean,
Yes. I think there are people who are more powerful or have more information or are more connected into some of these networks that haven't been released. There's no other explanation. I mean, I'm willing to listen to Blanche because he's saying we can see the unredacted files, but there's no other explanation for having an email to Jeffrey Epstein with the abuser's name blacked out, and the email just says, I enjoyed the naughty girl you sent, or I enjoyed the Brazilian girl. Like, why are you blacking that out? Or, you have my permission to kill blacked out. Why? Who are you think that
who are they going to kill?
Yeah. You think it's Survivor?
Did they kill?
You think it's...
Aren't they saying there's bodies buried at the New Mexico ranch?
There were emails about that. And so there's...
I'll bet there's no excavators over there right now looking for anything.
How do you not investigate it? Blanche as well, they're just men partying.
I wonder who owns that ranch now. Do you know?
I do not know.
I wonder if we could find that out, bring them in. Maybe they can do their own.
Maybe you do the investigation here. I mean, on this podcast. I mean, but the point is, you don't have you can get people voluntarily, but you don't have you've done more than the DOJ has done, but you don't have the power to subpoena. Congress has the power to subpoena. We have such power to subpoena that Bill Clinton, a former president, caved and is now coming and testifying in Congress. You don't think that we could exercise that same power with all of these people who are in the files?
But why do you think the DOJ isn't doing anything? Because shouldn't they be the ones that are indicting people?
They should.
Who have they indicted?
They haven't indicted a single person.
Really?
So, post Epstein, they said, oh, he's a dead guy and let's move on. They have not released the names of the co-conspirators who they should have indicted. They have not released the names of the people they should have prosecuted. And let alone, they've done nothing to investigate these people. And I don't know why. Like they say, okay, there's no it doesn't rise to a criminal level. Well, how do you know if you haven't investigated it? Have you called these people in and have you asked them questions about where they were? What did they do? What did they know? I don't think you have. I know you haven't, because these people would be saying that they were already cooperated with law enforcement. So you have, I mean, just think about this rationally. You have all these files. You got rich people, powerful people talking about being on the island. You're investigating the case back in 2007 or in 2019. Doesn't it say, okay, I'm going to send an FBI agent or someone to talk to these powerful people about Epstein just to understand what was going on? You don't have to, I mean, and they didn't do any of this. Why? Because they were intimidated. Because these people were at the Davos conferences together. They were financing the same politicians together. You got Donald Trump saying, oh, Bill Clinton shouldn't testify because he doesn't want to testify. You know, it's all the same club.
No matter where you're watching the Shawn Ryan Show from, if you get anything out of this at all, anything, please like, comment, and subscribe. And most importantly, share this everywhere you possibly can. And if you're feeling extra generous, head to Apple Podcasts and Spotify and leave us a review.